What is up YouTube? James Baek here. Welcome back to another episode of VGC 2018 Back Battles. Today we are using the Drift from Tapalele team that Jeremy and Ashton built to win the North American International Championship with Drifblim, Tapalele, Metagross, Amoonguss, Landisfarian, and Rotom Heat. As I said before, if my voice sounds a little bit different than usual, if you are an old-time viewer, the headset that I used to use is no longer functioning. I did try to use it earlier. I tried one battle with it. I was doing some tests. It wasn't like, it was still recording obviously, but it was just the volume was just way too low and I couldn't fix it at all. I checked all the settings. The wires were perfectly straight when I was using it, because sometimes maybe the wires will tangle up and it prevents the sound from traveling, which I don't know how that really works. But yeah, it just wasn't working. So I did order a new headset. Should be coming in a couple days. I actually ordered it earlier today and it already shipped, so pretty happy about that. So it should be coming in within the next few days, so hopefully I'll be able to get a new headset soon. Otherwise, for now, we have to deal with this microphone. I'm not really happy with the audio quality of this microphone. I felt like it was pretty poor when I was editing the last video, but I had, again, no choice other than to use this mic because I don't have any other equipment. Maybe I do have my Yeti, but that my Yeti microphone, which I used to use in the beginning of my YouTube career, but the problem is that mic was, still has some issues. I think it also had like low audio recording as well. But enough about that. Let's get into today's episode. We got an Incineroar, Tapu Bulu, Gengar, Greninja, Como, and Whimsicott. So Como team, pretty standard staple. This is gonna be interesting. We're gonna see double grass here. And a Greninja, which is also interesting as well. I think, there are a few options here. Of course, I could go the Drifblim Tapalele mode, which I think is very solid in this matchup. And I think I will go the Drifblim Tapalele mode. It's really solid in this matchup because of the fact that I can get... The problem is, the Gengar team with Tailwind is actually a lot scarier. And it doesn't help that Whimsicott has the access to Encore. This is going to actually be a bit of a difficult one. Whimsicott makes this difficult paired with Gengar. Maybe I lead something else. Maybe I go Metagross. But if I don't match Tailwind, I'm going to be in a really bad spot. I think I need Landis for the Incineroar too, and I think I need Metagross. This is going to be a tough one. I do think you lead Gengar Whimsicott if you're my opponent here. We're going to be fighting a Tailwind war. Maybe I could Shadow Ball the Gengar turn one, sacrificed, Tailwind getting set up. But the problem is Shadow Ball doesn't actually knock out Mega Gengar. And the following turn, my opponent can just go for fake tears into my Drifblim. So, yeah. Another option maybe I could have went for was the Metagross plus the Tapalele, because of the fact that I have Psychic Terrain up, you can't fake tear Shadow Ball, and I do live a Shadow Ball from the Gengar, and I could go for the Zen Headbutt. But I don't know if this Whimsicott does carry like a fairy type move. We're gonna see the Whimsicott Greninja though, which is, really fascinating here because I have no idea what is coming out. Greninja, I don't know if it's gonna be a Scarf variant. Scarf variant is probably one of the most common sets that I'm very familiar with. Overall, I do want to get Tailwind up. It's a question of, do you have Gunk Shot? Because I'm a little bit worried about Gunk Shot. I think I'm actually going to go hard Metagross because Lele's terrain is still useful in the game. So I think I'll just go hard into Metagross and Tailwind, as my opponent's Whimsicott maybe goes for Tailwind. Can go for a bunch of different factors here, but right here I feel like that this is a safe play. Of course, we don't know what kind of Greninja set again this is. Could have go for like a Dark Pulse, try to flinch my Tapalele, but I could definitely see Gunk Shot on the team because it does support the Como mode. So we'll see what comes out. Like, this is a pretty hard read right off the bat, but if I go for Protect Tailwind, it doesn't really help me if my opponent gets Tailwind up, and I'm still threatened by the Gunk Shot the following turn. So I'm going to go Metagross to gain maybe a bit of momentum, as we're going to see the Helping Hand come out. Oh, what is this? Oh, don't tell me it's just Helping Hand like Hydro Pump it to Metagross. That'd be pretty bad. Tailwind is going to go up for my Drifblim. And we're going to see the Z move come out. It's going to be Darkium? Oh, this is going out into Metagross, isn't it? Black Hole Eclipse. Like, I don't think you Helping Hand here unless it is targeting the Lele slot. Oh, yeah. Well, that's not the turn one I ever wanted to see, but it looks like Como won't be in the back, so I guess that's one positive thing to note. I can go into my Tapu Lele here, and I guess maybe just fire for Shadow Ball and a Moonblast into the Whimsicott, as Greninja might decide to protect here. This is looking pretty bad though. I'm already down. My opponent can easily just go for a Encore here as well, which is problematic. I will go for the Shadow Ball plus Moonblast though into the Whimsicott here, because if you Encore, at least I still have Tailwind up. We're going to see the Greninja protect, so I'm guessing that the... Wait, is that not Protean? I don't think it changed it to a normal type. I'll double check afterward, but did we not see Protean? Shadow Ball going to come out in the Whimsicott as well as a Moonblast, so at least I will be able to knock out the Whimsicott here, so at least one positive thing comes out, but again, this is still looking problematic. We do knock out the Whimsicott, but however, we're still in a tough spot. My opponent's going to have an extra Tailwind turn, more than me, so this is already looking pretty bad here. Let's see what comes out. Probably the Gengar, I would assume. Gengar... Incineroar. Incineroar doesn't put on as much pressure, so I'm actually really surprised to see the Incineroar come out. Again, I do want to check what kind of Greninja set this is. Yeah, it's still Water Dark. Unless it doesn't change Protean, but I'm pretty sure it does, huh? You can't Tailwind me. I don't want to Rain Dance. I can't do anything with this, can I? I might as well just try to KO the Greninja, I guess. Should I just double up Greninja just to be safe? I'm gonna Moonblast and Shadow Ball the Greninja. No, actually no. Shadow Ball the Incineroar because to put in potential Earthquake range. And Moonblast the Greninja, who's gonna go for Dark Pulse. The target's on my Tapu Lele. No flinch, which is good, so I'll be able to knock out. It's not Protean Greninja. Like, that's really surprising because usually you would see Greninja with Protean. This one's just Torrent. Because Ash Greninja is not legal in this format. I know that much. Knockoff going to go on the Lele. We're going to trade there. Which is fine because if there is a Como in the back, it's not a Como that I'm really scared about because of the fact that the Como, you know, that the Como can't use a Z move because of the fact we already saw the Greninja use the Z move. We're going to see the Gengar come out, which makes a lot of sense here. I feel like I'm in a pretty good spot if the Incineroar doesn't care to protect here, and even if the Incineroar cares to protect, I'm feeling pretty good here because Earthquake does get to knock out Gengar 100%. Icy Wind won't KO my Landers without a critical hit. I guess maybe HP Ice, but no one really runs HP Ice on Gengar. So I'll just go for a Shadow Ball and an Earthquake into the Incineroar slot because an extra Shadow Ball should guarantee the knockout into Incineroar with the Earthquake. Yeah, my opponent's in a really tough spot here. I'm really glad I did bring my Landers. This game has not played out at all how I've been thinking it would be, but we're going to see what comes out here. Gengar does Mega Buff. I just decides to go for Protect, which probably just seals up the game for me, I think. Because I'm going to Shadow Ball the Incineroar. Get that knockout with the Earthquake following. I'm pretty sure Earthquake should knock out. We're not intimidated. This is a Earthquake. I think Incineroar had Intimidate, right? Please tell me it had Intimidate. Please tell me you just didn't forget your abilities or something. Incineroar does go down. Gengar's left alone. 2 Shadow Balls finish off the Gengar. I guess I could be... Okay, he did have Intimidate. I could protect Tailwind. The problem is if you go for the Shadow Ball crit and you get it, I'm in a little bit in trouble. No matter what, I think it comes down to crit no matter what I do, because if I protect Landers, go for Tailwind. If you get the Shadow Ball crit in the Drifblim, a single target Icy Wind probably does knock out Landers. If you get the Icy Wind crit on my Landers here, if you have it, I get knocked out anyway with Landers, and my Drifblim then gets knocked out by the Shadow Ball afterwards. So no matter what, I don't think there's a way I can avoid crit ending this game. But it looks like the match is actually going to be forfeited. Maybe my opponent doesn't care Shadow Ball. So the game's going to be over. I actually have to charge my computer because I actually forgot to plug it in. There we go. I could tell because the screen dimmed. But yeah, not exactly a game I thought would happen. Like, what would happen? Like, the only turn I think that actually was like understandable for me was the turn 2 to protect Greninja and just get Tailwind up, because even if you lose the Whimsicott, you get a lot of offensive pressure. But I think the big note was like Gengar decided to come in, and I thought that was really strange because Gengar put in a lot of pressure. You could have got the Shell Tag off. You could just protect Gengar and Dark Pulse if you even wanted to. Like Dark Pulse my Drifblim, because of the fact that Gengar was putting so much pressure onto the Tapu Lele, because of the fact he got Tailwind up, you could have outsped. But Incineroar was interesting. I guess you don't take too much damage there, but like the fact is I'm not going to be outsped and KO'd by the Greninja, so unless you did have the Gunk Shot, but without Protean, yeah, like was very unlikely. We're going to find our second opponent here using a team of Swampert, Pelipper, Ferrothorn, Tapu Lele, Zapdos, and Incineroar. Actually, this is a team I'm very kind of familiar with because I actually used something very similar to this on Baek Battles with Muck over the Incineroar. I think that was before Intimidate Incineroar was actually released. So, interesting to see here. I think I'm very comfortable with this matchup because of the fact that Drifblim plus Tapu Lele does a ton of work here. And again, this is the same rain issue. I bring the same 4 against rain teams like this. Don't really see a problem with it because of the fact that I do want Drifblim to burn the Swampert if possible, and I do want the Rotom Heat to deal with the Ferrothorn, and Metagross is just good because of the fact that it can pressure the Tapu Lele, the Zapdos very nicely here. So we'll see what my opponent decides to do. Lead-wise, I'm not sure if you're going to go to Rain mode. Rain is actually really effective against my team. You could go late-game Rain mode. Maybe you lead the Ferrothorn expecting me to lead my Tapu Lele. Maybe even go something awkward here. Maybe like Ferrothorn Pelipper, for instance. So you can threaten the Rotom Heat as well as threaten my Lele mode if I do lead the Tapu Lele Drifblim mode, because I can't do much to it. But we're just going to see actually just a standard Zapdos Tapu Lele lead, which I'm guessing is going to be the Psychic Seed on the Zapdos here. Which, you know, I'm okay with because even if we trade Tailwinds, it's not that bad here. My Drifblim should be able to live a Shower Psyche. You would have to spend, I think, 2 attacks in order to knock out the Drifblim. Unless the Tapu Lele carries like a Life Orb or Spec Psyshock here. Zapdos Pressure, no Psychic Seed actually, which is really interesting because this actually means I could go for probably a Shadow Ball Psychic into Zapdos and probably pick up the knockout with the Life Orb Psychic. Of course, the question is one... I think the big question is, one, what kind of Zapdos this is, if it's timid or not. I think that's a big question I do have to know. I think maybe getting Tailwind is better. And even though I kind of want Taunt to Zapdos, it doesn't make sense if the Zapdos is faster than me, since Zapdos naturally outspeeds. Although most of them don't Eevee to outspeed. Pokemon like Tapu Lele, they usually tend to run bulky, but it looks like this case it's going to work out because this is... Oh, no, it's just a Tapu Lele on my opponent's side because it looks like it's going to be timid, which makes a lot of sense. Just going to go for the Shirateki or maybe Allies. The Ally Switch? No, it's going to be Shirateki. Yeah. So I don't mind that because I'm pretty sure Drifblim should be able to live this with the Psychic Seed. That's a question mark. Even if I don't feel like it's the end of the world for me. I get a free switch in to like my Metagross. Yeah, Drifblim is actually able to survive, which is pretty clutch there, as Psychic will go out into the Zapdos. Do we pick up the knockout? We don't actually pick up the knockout. Barely miss it. We're going to see the 50% berry or citrus berry? 50% berry, as we're going to see the Tailwind come out for my opponent's Zapdos, which is completely fine. I don't really need it too much, as right here, I could probably just go for a Shadow Ball into the Tapu Lele slot and just fire off another Psychic into Zapdos. Or maybe just a Moonblast here, because I'm pretty sure Moonblast does knock out the Zapdos, and if Incineroar wants to come in, I get chip damage on that. So, you know what, I'll just go for that play. I don't really need Drifblim anymore, getting the Tailwind up, and if you brought Ferrothorn and Incineroar in the back, I don't really have a need for my Drifblim anymore, because my primary options with Drifblim is just to prevent Swampert in rain from sweeping me from the lead. So, we'll see what comes out here from my opponent. You can... do a lot of things here. I'm pretty sure Life Orb Moonblast should be able to knock out Zapdos though, with how much the Psychic did. Psychic did like 95%. I'm pretty sure Moonblast should be able to pick up the knockout, I would assume. Although it could be potentially close. I don't want my opponent getting free switch into Incineroar if that's the case. Gonna get a Shadow Ball off into Tapu Lele before I go down here. Just a bit of chip for anything. Psychic gonna come out into my Drifblim. So Drifblim's gonna go down. And we'll see if we are able to knock out Zapdos, because if we are able to knock out Zapdos, that's pretty big, because no matter what, whatever my opponent has in the back doesn't appreciate the combinations of Moonblast plus like Stomping Tantrum, for instance. If it is Incineroar in the back, I can go Metagross here. And if it's like the Swampert, I can just fire for Psychic there, and I think just Iron Head at the top of the Lele. But I think there are also other plays that I can make here because of the fact that Swampert might be that back Pokemon. Yeah, we're going to see the Swampert come out. Metagross is going to come out. You would assume I could double target the Swampert here. Oh boy. Actually, no, this is scary. There are two plays I think you can make here with the Swampert. One is a Protect here and a switch to Pelipper. Or the other play is, since Pelipper is going to activate the Rain, you can... Actually, does it work? I think it works like that. If you switch in Pelipper here, Swift Swim up, Mega Evolve, get the Swift Swim, I think you can outspeed my Metagross on top of Lele right here. This is actually looking pretty dire of a situation here. Attempt to KO the Swampert here. But it looks like Tapu Lele is not switching out. Huh. Okay. I think Swampert didn't Mega Ball, so it's probably protecting. Yeah, so I could have maybe knocked out the Pelipper. Maybe my opponent just wanted a free switch into Pelipper and thought I would target down the Tapu Lele. We're probably going to see Moonblast in my own Tapu Lele, which, you know, does make sense here. So Moonblast is going to come out in the Tapu Lele. Gets a crit, which, you know, is a little unfortunate, but I don't think it's going to matter too much in the long run because I was put in range of pretty much anything from my opponent anyway. This is still an interesting situation because it's still not the best for me. I guess I'll go on a Rotom here. The crit is a little bit annoying because I think my opponent just clicks Psychic into my Tapu Lele slot because it pretty much catches any switch that I can make. While I think you had to go for Moonblast potentially in order to guarantee knockout the Lele, except I don't really know the damage calc, so I'm just going to go Rotom Heat right here. We might see the Swampert retreat and the Pelipper because I feel like that is going to be your win condition. You don't want to throw it out. We're going to see the Swampert retreat here into Pelipper, which is fine, I guess, because one, if this is Focus Sash Pelipper, it's going to live, so not really too concerning. Let's see. It really comes down to, I think, what the Lele does here, Moonblast or Psychic. It's going to be a Moonblast. Okay, so that's pretty lucky for me. Actually targets down the Metagross here, which I am okay with. So, almost my special attack, which, you know, doesn't matter, as I will go for the Zen Headbutt here into the Pelipper, as that's going to bring it down to a KO. That actually isn't a Sash Pelipper, it looks like. Talon's going to peter out for both sides. This made the game interesting. Swampert going to come out here. Unfortunately, Rotom's really not helpful in this game. And if the Pelipper wasn't the, oh boy, yeah, this is a problem. I could double protect to try to stall out rain, but I don't think that really helps me. I think I have to go for reads here. I think I have to target the Lele slot and protect my Metagross, since I feel like you might try to double target the Metagross if you're aggressive here. You could also predict Ally Switch, though, if you know the team, so you could try to Waterfall the Rotom as I attempt to Ally Switch. I don't want to Ally Switch here, but no matter what, it's going to be a 50-50, I think. Waterfall going to come out. Targets down the Rotom Heat, very smart play from my opponent. But either way, I felt like no matter what, Zen Headbutt wasn't going to knock out the Swampert, which was the big part anyway. And no matter what, if Metagross took any damage, if I called that wrong, like no matter what, I think I lose in the game anyway. Because let's say you Waterfall here, right? You Waterfall my Rotom Heat there, you get the Moonblast damage off in the Metagross. I'm pretty sure both my Pokemon are in range of the Swampert's Earthquake. So no matter what, I don't think I had a single out in the back to the Swampert. I think the only thing that could have saved me was a Zen Headbutt crit into the Swampert. Or maybe if I went for Ally Switch there. But like, even if I Ally Switch, I'm already weakened to Metagross. You can just Earthquake probably to win the game later. I don't think there is a way out. I mean, I guess I'll try for like quadruple protects, but like, no matter what, I think this game's 100% over at this point, as we're just going to see protects all around the board. Actually, wait, can't, well, I get the protect. Actually, no, if I knew you were going to Earthquake, I go for the Zen Headbutt crit. So that's actually a mistake on my part, because that actually gives me options. Yeah. So that is a mistake on my part. Now I can't win because you're just going to waterfall the Metagross and Moonblast my Tapu Lele. If I was Jolly Metagross, maybe I have a chance because I could outspeed the Tapu Lele and get a Psychic off potentially. But right here doesn't look very promising here. But Lele's going to go for the double protect. Okay. Swampert just going to go for Earthquake here. I guess maybe I had to attempt for a double and protect. I guess I had to go for the double Lele and hope for the crit. I mean, it's odds, but I didn't actually think my opponent would go for that. Zen Headbutt going to connect with the Swampert. That doesn't pick up the knockout. It does it does about 95. It doesn't actually pick up the KO. But good game to my opponent. I think overall, it was just not having much for this back. And I think another play I could have went for was Shadow Ball and a Psychic, because if I got the Shadow Ball Psychic combination into the Zapdos turn 1, instead of thinking, oh, it's gonna be it could potentially be an offensive Zapdos, I think the better play there was just to go for the Tailwind, not Tailwind, Shadow Ball plus Psychic there, because if I get the Shadow Ball Psychic off into the Zapdos, I guarantee pick up the knockout with the Life Orb Psychic, right? So next Zapdos doesn't get Tailwind up. Next turn, you bring out either your Swampert or Pelipper. I get Tailwind Taunt if it's Pelipper, and if it's Swampert, I could go for either the Will-O-Wisp aggressive read, or I could just Tailwind with my Drifblim, and most likely I would just go for the Tailwind there because I'd be able to guarantee Tailwind up there, and then maybe I could sweep there or just put on a lot of pressure right there. So I think the play there was to Shadow Ball Psychic, and yeah, thinking about the team, I don't think it was the best idea to go for the Tailwind right away, because I feel like on that team you wouldn't really run on offensive Zapdos. I mean, I guess you could run Thunder. I've seen Thunder Zapdos on Rain, but like that's not really that common in the first place, especially if you're pairing it with like Tapu Lele, for instance. I feel like it would be more of a bulkier Zapdos, so I think I should have considered all those options right there. But overall, we'll move on to the next game, and yeah, let's see. Gladion, yeah, and I guess Rotom Heat was a poor call, but I feel like you're forced to bring Rotom Heat because no matter what, if you don't bring Rotom Heat, you automatically lose to Ferrothorn. Unless I bring Landorus there and am able to Sword Stance up, but that's pretty tricky against a Rain mode paired with the Ferrothorn, because if Ferrothorn is coming, you're going to bring the Rain mode, and the Landorus is always going to be threatened by the Swampert unless you're able to neuter it right away. So no matter what, I felt like it was tricky. Maybe I should have brought the Landorus there, because the Landorus might have actually been able to be more useful than the Rotom, because the Rotom really, again, didn't do much, and maybe I could have threatened a Tectonic Rage in the Swampert, although I actually don't know if Tectonic Rage can't knock out the Swampert, and I'm pretty sure -1 Waterfall. I know -1 Ice Punch would still get the Landorus, but I actually don't know if -1 Waterfall. Actually, no, Waterfall I think is still stronger than Ice Punch in the Rain, so I'm pretty sure it would still be able to pick up the knockout. But since it's taking a while to find a game, we'll be right back with the third game actually of today's episode. Alright, we got our final opponent from Mexico, 1554 rating, with the team of Tapu Fini, Landorus Fairy, Nihilego, Heatran, Cresselia, and Gardevoir. It's actually really interesting to see Cresselia and Gardevoir, because those Pokemon usually tend to go for both having the Trick Room option and both the Bulky Psychic type. So that's actually really interesting. Also, another thing to note, I think this is actually the first time I've ever seen Gardevoir paired with Nihilego, so should be pretty exciting. My opponent looks like 5 special attackers though. Potentially 6 if it's special Landorus, unless it's like a physical. I don't know what could be physical though on this team, because you're not running physical Nihilego, not Gardevoir, Cresselia maybe, Fini maybe, Heatran no. Yeah, so Landorus is very effective in this game because of the fact its ability to do a lot of damage here, threatens the Nihilego as well as the Heatran. Drifblim Tapu Lele doesn't look like that great of a lead here. Drifblim doesn't do much to the Heatran. I mean, speed control is nice, but doesn't really help. We also have a pretty bad Nihilego matchup, I want to say, because we don't exactly have the most effective tools to deal with it. Although we do have the Metagross, and Metagross is going to be a fantastic Pokemon in this matchup right here. I'm thinking we go Metagross and maybe just go straight for the Tapu Lele. Or I think Metagross Landorus is also good because of the fact that the only thing that really threatens to Metagross is going to be that Heatran and of course my opponent's Landorus. And if we switch in my Landorus, we do have that Intimidate right away, unless it's a special Landorus as I said before, but that's very specific. That nice Nurse Joy costume that I still have to get for my character in game. I've been postponing that for months. Just haven't had the time to do it, unfortunately. But let's see what my opponent's going to bring out here. There are a lot of potential Pokemon that are coming in this matchup. I feel like you have to bring Heatran though, because your Metagross and Amoonguss answers aren't really... Well, your Amoonguss answers are fine, but your Metagross answers are not. We're going to see the Cresselia and Nihilego come out, which is fine here. Doesn't exactly appreciate my Pokemon that I do have right now. And I think right here, we're going to see the Adrenaline Orb actually come out from the Nihilego. Okay. Not like it was going to do much anyway. I feel like I do want to just get damage off into the Cresselia. Cresselia is probably actually a bigger threat than Nihilego because of the Pokemon I brought. Nihilego's not really doing too much. I think I'm just going to bring out my Amoonguss here and Iron Head the Cresselia, because damage on the Cresselia is useful for later, because if this Cresselia gets Trick Room up, I can deal with it later in the game. Once Trick Room's over, so I can prevent it from sending up a Trick Room later. It's also really nice because of the fact that Cresselias do carry Ice moves, so Landorus is being threatened, and if I can get my Landorus outside of this Trick Room threatening me, I feel pretty good about my position. And Nihilego, again, isn't really doing much, especially with the Adrenaline Orb. I can confirm it's probably a Power Gem, Sludge Bomb, Hidden Power Ice set. So it's really not doing anything to my Metagross and Amoonguss here. As we're going to see the Helping Hand come out. I'm guessing this is Helping Hand, Hidden Power Ice, which is okay because it's not really doing too much. Yeah, you can go for the Hidden Power Ice. I actually would have been able to get a free knockout on Nihilego if my opponent allowed me to. That does half to my Amoonguss, which is, you know, damage, but not really helping my opponent out much. I get a good amount into Cresselia. I'm pretty sure Nihilego might protect here, but we could see the Scout right here. I think just protecting Amoonguss is safe here, because I do want my Amoonguss in against these two Pokemon. If Nihilego switches out into Heatran and Cresselia Trick Rooms, I can always just switch out on my Tapu Lele the following turn. And again, damaging the Cresselia is useful. I really don't want Helping Hands. What are you going to do? Helping Hands, Hidden Power Ice my Amoonguss the following turn again? Or are you going to Sludge Bomb? Because if you Sludge Bomb, that catches my Lele, and you're in a pretty good spot, actually. So, we're going to see a Nihilego retreat here. It's going to be the Landorus coming out, which is okay here. I don't really mind that. As Landorus is going to come out, and what's this Cresselia going for then? Maybe, I don't know if it would be Z-Move on this team. I feel like the Landorus would be, but we'll find out. Iron Head going to come out into Cresselia, again damage, and we're going to see the Icy Wind come out. Okay, so that's not really doing too much to my team. I don't want Helping Hand Earthquake coming out and targeting my Metagross, because that would just do so much damage. Icy Wind isn't really the worst factor for me, I think, overall. I think I'm just going to go for the Landorus swap right here. I think it's very effective here, and Spore the opposing Landorus right here. If my opponent goes for a U-turn and a Feeny, that would be really smart on my opponent's play. Although I could Spore a Cresselia and it wouldn't threaten the Amoonguss. So actually I don't think you would do that. But I don't see Feeny being brought as the last Pokemon. Because do you really need the Misty Terrain? I mean, yeah, you prevent the damage from Psychic Beam too much, but you got the Nihilego. And the fact is, like, how do you touch my Amoonguss really, other than Cress? Let's see what my opponent goes for. Probably the Earthquake here. Knockoff actually going to come out into my Amoonguss, so getting on my Berry. So, unfortunate for me, Icy Wind's going to come out, but that's fine, realistically, because of the fact that this really isn't going to be doing too much damage to me. Yeah, as Amoonguss going to hang on, as well as my Landorus. Very nice knockoff call from my opponent's end, but I feel like no matter what, I still got the better end of this turn off. We'll be able to get a Spore off, and I do want health on all my Pokemon, so I think I'll pull a double swap the following turn. And with this, I think Iron Head should be able to knock out the Cresselia afterwards, so we'll go into Lele here. Yeah, we'll go into Lele and Metagross here, double swap. It doesn't really make a difference of the order, I think, right here. And knockoff is interesting because Landorus is, that would probably confirm it, I would assume, the Assault Vest set, but we have no idea to confirm it, but most likely it would be the Assault Vest set. I'm going to retreat my Pokemon because I do want the Regenerate Health of Amoonguss. Amoonguss is again useful in this matchup. If I can knock out the Landorus on my opponent's side, I'm feeling pretty good about my position here too. But we'll bring out my Tapu Lele, bring out my Metagross, take the Icy Wind that's coming out here, because I don't think there's any way you're not going for Icy Wind here. Landorus is going to take a turn of sleep, and the question is, do I want to go for the Zen Headbutt into the Landorus slot, or do I want to just go for these, as simple, just go for the Iron Head, knockout Cresselia, because both are very big factors in this matchup. I feel like Zen Headbutt could knock out a potential target onto the lander slot, I actually think it might be worth just going for that slot and just bring back my Amoonguss, because terrain control is nice, but the fact is I do want more regenerated health on my Amoonguss. And if my opponent ever decides to get Trick 'em Up, I can always punish that with a Spore. So I feel like it is better just to bring out the Amoonguss here. So we'll see what my opponent does have in the back, because I really don't know at this point. I'll bring out Amoonguss as Ally Switch going to come out. Oh. Another reason I was thinking might be just Iron Heading the Cresselia, as Landis is going to take another turn of sleep. We do go for the Zen Headbutt. Comes out into the Cresselia here. And it actually does pick up the knockout with a critical hit, so okay, I don't think that would knocked out without the critical hit. Maybe it would have. I don't know if we got a really high roll, maybe. But knock out the Cresselia is really nice there, as that's one trade I'll be willing to take there. Let's see what my opponent decides to bring out. Probably the NAIC actually decides to come out. So it's an interesting switch. The reason why I say that's an interesting switch, it doesn't appreciate my Metagross. So I don't know if you're going to go for Protect Earthquake. This Landis is at -1. I mean, I know NAIC can't knock it out. Only Landers can. You would have to go for Earthquake. I think I'm just going to Zen Rage Powder and Zen Headbutt, because no matter what, NAIC can't do much to anything. And if it's... You're definitely not Scarf Landers, because I feel like if you were Scarf Landers, you would switch out. So I'm just going to Zen Headbutt the Landers right here. Landers could switch out in a Heatran, I suppose, but damage on Heatran's great for the Shuckle Berry. The Stomping Tantrum will be a huge factor, but Gardevoir actually going to come out. No Heatran, which I find very surprising. So we're going to see the Regenerator being traced, which actually could be a factor here, as we will go for the Rage Powder here, as we're going to see Sludge Bomb. Yeah, just Sludge Bomb. It's not going to KO my Amoonguss. It does? What? Hold on, helping and HP Ice. I'm actually really surprised that KO'd. I mean, we do get a lot of damage in the Gardevoir. We get a free switch in the top of the Lele, I guess. Oh, that made the game a little bit tougher. I got damage on Gardevoir, which is nice, but this is still pretty tough. I guess I can just Iron Head the NAIC, because even if he Sludge Bomb my Lele, I feel like that's fine. I trade NAIC for the Metagross. I trade NAIC for my Tapu Lele, which I don't think is a bad trade, because Gardevoir can get a little bit of damage off into Metagross. I bring out my Landorus. Yeah, I think no matter what, I'd be fine with that trade, because I think Landorus can win in this endgame. So we'll see what my opponent decides to do, especially with the Swords Dance. That's the reason why I feel like I can win that endgame, because of the Swords Dance and my Landorus. Since the Landorus has knockoff on my opponent's side, I really don't suspect it to be a... I assume it to be probably a AV bulky set. That's the Landorus set I'm looking at right now. And yeah, again, as I said, I'm fine with the trade here. So, and if you over predict, like scouting for my Protect with Tapu Lele, I'm going to be able to get a guaranteed Moonblast off into your Gardevoir, which allows me to pick up the knock on Gardevoir, and now I'm able to just go for the Iron Head Earthquake and the NAIC the following turn. Of course, this still has drawbacks because of the fact that Landorus does come out here, and if it is a Z-move Landorus, it will be able to outspeed my Metagross. So I guess there are a few risks you still have to take. One, I have no idea if it's Z-move Landorus, because there's no Z-move on Coco. I know that for a fact. I don't think Heatran. It could have been Crest, but I'm not exactly too sure, because you never went for Psychic into my Amoonguss. Oh man, I'm thinking like all the potential options with if I switch into Landorus on the Tectonic Rage. I don't remember how many turns the Landorus took. I think I'm gonna assume the Tectonic Rage. You're not gonna HP Ice the Metagross slot. I don't think it makes much sense. My opponent's actually gonna forfeit. I guess if you're AV, you can't knock on my Metagross, so I guess that does make sense, because I Iron Head there. Actually, yeah, my logic was, but I have seen Groundium knockoff like 2 times actually, so if it was Groundium, I couldn't switch out Lele into Landorus because my opponent could potentially read that, or Tectonic Rage would probably still knock out my Metagross anyway. Yeah, I think it was still a game, but maybe I'm just overcomplicating things. I guess maybe I should just assume it is the bulky. I don't know, because since we crit the Cresselia, I couldn't find out if it was Z-move or not. If it didn't have a berry, I would 100% assume it's Z-move. Knockoff would probably indicate it would be Assault Vest Landers, but even then, like, I'm still playing mind games right there since I did get the crit on Cresselia. I have no idea if it's actually Z-move Landers. If it's Z-move Landers, gives me problems because since I took the Icy Winds with the Metagross, I'm still underspeeding the Landers. Tectonic Rage is going to be able to pick up a knockout if Landers wakes up that turn, and you can go for the Sludge Bomb, and I could be down to my Landers, and I would just lose to Nihilego at that point because Nihilego would outspeed and be able to HPS me, which is the one big factor I didn't want happening. Another option was if I switched out my Lele into Landers, there's a potential of my opponent calling that and going for the HP Ice. Although I really don't think my opponent would really call that in the situation, it's definitely a possibility. And also my Landers taking Sludge Bomb wouldn't exactly be the best cause for me. So no matter what, I feel like I would still be playing in an awkward spot regardless. But we are able to pick up 2 wins and 1 loss in today's episode. Hope that everyone enjoyed today's episode of VGC 2018 Back-to-Back Battles. So if you did like it, please leave a like down below. Shows your support, as well as you can check out the rest of my stuff down below in the description, such as my social medias, the sites of my channel, all that good stuff will be linked down below, as well as you can check out my Twitch channel, my social medias. You can check out the previous episodes of VGC 2018 Back-to-Back Battles as well. Feel free to leave a comment on this video because I do read them. Otherwise, yeah, that's pretty much it. Have a great day, people. Until we battle again, I'll catch you all later.